Alright, today I want to compare two Chinese language schools in Taipei. First one is Shida, the second one is Wenhua. And so, when I when I came to Taipei to study Chinese, I first went to Shida. I spent half a year at Shida, learning Chinese there, taking classes Monday through Fridays, 2 hour long, and then doing self-study afterwards. And then after that 6 months, I took a break, and then when I came back to Taipei, I decided to switch schools. And so one of the schools that I found is called Wenhua, and Wenhua is a little bit different than Shida in a lot of ways. And so that's what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to compare both schools, pros and cons, good and bad, and what are the differences. What are the differences? When I came back to Taipei, I decided to, I did some searching online, and then I saw a lot of reviews against Shida and a lot of reviews for Wenhua, and it made me think, I'm like, it's like some of the things they said, had merit, and some of the things they said were just mostly like, that I read were just like, issues that only one person had. And so, I took that into account, and then I took my experience at Shida into account, and then I decided to go visit Wenhua, the school, Wenhua school. And so when I went there, it was just like completely different. Because first of all, the building is a lot more modern, the facilities are more modern, they're a lot more newer. If you go to Shida, the outside of Shida, the building for the Chinese Language Center looks like a giant bank. Or it looks like the IRS building in the U.S. The IRS building in San Francisco. That's what it looks like a big monolithic building. But then when you go inside, it just looks like really dated. It looks a little bit old. The furniture is really old. The air conditioners and the fans that they have, are a little bit dirty. It looks like they don't really bother to clean them, especially like the air conditioner vents were really black. And then the classes are really small size. Each class has about the same amount of students, like about 9 or 10. But the size of the classroom is very small, so you feel sometimes a bit cramped in the room. And then the whole building is just really old. And then if you go to the computer lab, the computers are really ancient and dated. The only thing that's kind of more modern is they have LCD monitors, but they're about the very small monitors and not widescreen. They're the square aspect screens, 4:3 aspect ratio, and then the computers are these old Dell towers, and the computers are really slow. So all that plays a factor into the overall experience of the school. And then let me see. Aside from that, when you go to Wenhua, the buildings, the facilities are more modern. It looks a lot more cleaner. The classroom sizes, the student count is about the same, 9 or 10 students, but then the size of the rooms are a lot more bigger. So it feels more spacious. So let me see. I'm just looking at my notes here. One thing that's interesting about Wenhua is that the teachers there automatically assume that you speak Chinese and will speak to you in Chinese. And then even if you try to break, by speaking English, they'll continue to, keep talking to you in Chinese. Now, unless, they can tell that your Chinese is not there yet, your Chinese speaking ability is not anywhere near okay, they'll speak to you in English. But for the most part, they're really force you to speak Chinese. And then the textbook is more serious compared to Shida. I feel like the textbooks at Wenhua is a lot more geared towards more contextual things that you will find in everyday life. Let me show you a comparison of the two books actually. Alright, so these are the books. This is the book from Shida. It's called A Course in Contemporary Chinese, the textbook. There's It's actually a thicker book, but I cut it into 3 pieces. So this is just one out of 3 pieces because the book is really heavy and I didn't want to carry all 3 pieces. And then this is the book from Wenhua Dashi. It's Practical Audiovisual Chinese. It's the 3rd edition. So there's some big differences between the 2 books. The first is that the book from Wenhua is more verbose. There's less pictures in it. But one of the biggest differences is in the vocabulary sections. There's a lot of sentence examples for how the vocabulary fits into a sentence. So this is really helpful because if you look at the Shida book, it just has the vocabulary listed out and the definition. There's no example sentences. So most of the time you have to do some self-study to figure out how to put these into sentences. And then the Shida book has a lot of these fancy illustrations and short stories that combine all the vocabulary into the story as much as they can. So the Shida book has just, I want to say, like, after all the vocabulary in the short stories, the grammar section just shows you, how to use some of these words, sentence patterns and combinations. But then the exercises are very, there's not that many exercises, pretty much, It's just very few. It's a lot of drawings. Drawings are kind of useless, without a lot of ways to be able to have exercises to just write it out yourself. Whereas with the Shida book, the Wenhua book, there's a brief example for how to use the sentence structure, and then here you just have to write it out. So you see there's all these blanks here. Well, I already filled them out, but typically if we go to a different section, here we go. See, so there's all these blanks here, and then you have to fill it out, based on the sentence structure pattern. So this book is very, I would say, more serious, compared to the Shida book. And so far, one thing I noticed is a lot of the words there are, per chapter in the Wenhua book. This book, the Practical Audiovisual Chinese book, they seem to be more practical compared to the ones you find in course in contemporary Chinese. It took them book 2, lesson 6 to get to the I plan to move closer to school chapter. And then after that, it's the garbage truck is here. I could have used this in book 1, lesson 1. Learn how to throw the trash in Taiwan because that's really complicated. And then lesson 8, learning Kung Fu. And this is not very practical, how am I going to use this in my day-to-day life? It's very strange, not contextually relevant. And the city is really beautiful, okay. That's like a 5-minute conversation. And then with the Practical Audiovisual Chinese book, it says things like, let me see, it tells you jacket, you cannot stand something to encourage somebody, the word never, to become independent or immigration, let's see, to open up a shop, immigrant, geography, map, magazine, measure word for magazine, essay, word for essay, word for interest, word for accent. These are things I would use in everyday language. So that's a quick, brief summary of comparing these 2 books together. All right, so teacher styles. Since I just started Wenhua, I have to wait for a few months. I'll wait until the first semester passes before I can evaluate the teacher quality. But so far, the school is a little bit more difficult compared to Shida. because there's not so much. There's not so much like hand holding or babying, and the textbook is more serious. So the whole environment feels, even the environment feels a little bit. I want to say like relaxed. It's just it's just like the people who are there to study Chinese, the students who are there, they feel like more serious about studying Chinese compared to Shida. So you get the atmosphere is a lot more different and a lot more professional. Professional. Yeah. And just in terms of the students, I'm not talking about teachers at all. Because teachers are professional also in both places. So yeah, that's about it for now. Until next time. Let's see.